Bene, adesso passiamo la parola, poi vorrei che rimanesse sul palco un nostro ospite che arriva da Malta. Un onore per noi avere qui con noi oggi Charles Mifsud, scusate se ho pronunciato bene. Charles Mifsud, lui è un professore di lingua e formazione umanistica, direttore del Centro per l'Alfabetizzazione dell'Università di Malta e ci parlerà dell'importanza della qualità nell'istruzione. Prego, prego Charles. Prego Charles.
Grazie molto. Prima i ringraziamenti in italiano. Profondissimi ringraziamenti alla signora Isabel Vera, l'ideatore e l'organizzatore di questo convegno con il professor Stefano Matta. Anche ringrazio l'esperto tecnico, il signor Marco, per tutto l'aiuto, e il signor Aldo Brigaglia, un'autorità sulla storia e cultura della Sardegna, un scrittore. Grazie tanto per l'informazione sulla Sardegna, e ho scoperto che è anche un grande raccontatore durante il pranzo, raccontatore di storie e scherzi buoni anche. Allora comincio con una storia. C'era una volta, once upon a time, c'era un direttore di un'impresa molto importante, molto impegnato, occupato, ha tanti impiegati, tanti impegni. Un giorno aveva il suo piccolo figlio di 5 anni al lavoro, nell'ufficio. Questo ragazzo energetico, tocca qui, tocca là, e il padre, il papà, non posso fare il lavoro. Allora il papà, il direttore, pensava come si può fare per impegnare il piccolo ragazzo, e c'è sulla tavola grande manageriale una rivista. In questa rivista c'è una pagina che ha la carta geografica, la carta geografica dell'Europa. Allora ho spezzettato, come un jigsaw puzzle in gioco di pazienza, ho spezzettato questa mappa geografica e do da questa al figlio. Ok, no. Allora fa unire questa mappa geografica, questo piccolo di 5 anni, non so esattamente dove tutti i paesi dell'Europa, si impegna per un'ora, il papà può fare i lavori, i raduni con i colleghi importanti del business, ma dopo 2 o 3 minuti il figlio ritorna con la mappa compiuta, con la mappa dell'Europa compiuta. Come è possibile? Il papà ha detto al figlio: come è possibile di riunire la mappa geografica soltanto 5 anni, non so tutti i paesi? E come è fatto in 2 o 3 minuti? Ma papà, all'altro lato della pagina c'è 2 piccoli bambini tendersi a mano, una ragazza piccola e un ragazzo piccolo, e ho fatto put together l'immagine della piccola ragazza, il piccolo ragazzo che tendersi a mano, e poi c'è fatta l'immagine flip, dall'altra parte c'è compiuta la carta geografica dell'Europa. Qual è il morale, la lezione di questa storia? Che se non diamo attenzione alle isole piccole dell'Europa per farsi unire, come stai facendo, come fai la signora, la signora Isabel Vera, allora possiamo in qualche modo, che diamo attenzione alle piccole isole, come questi piccoli ragazzi nell'immagine, possiamo riunire l'Europa. Allora, prima della presentazione faccio proviamo di facciamo un collegamento con una collega da Malta, la dottoressa Ani GPT. Ani GPT. Proviamo. Hello, Ani, how are you?
La tua collega di lavoro, scusa Charlie, spiegaci un po', non capiamo questo collegamento adesso. Scusa Fidanca, però...
How are you today, Ani? Can you hear me? How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. How about you?
I'm well. I'm feeling good because I am with some colleagues here in Cagliari. And I would like to ask you some question. I know you are very intelligent. So, Anya, what do you think are the challenges in education for small states? What do you think about that?
That's a great question. In my opinion, one of the main challenges for small states in education is access to resources.
Do you have any other ideas about that? About the challenges for education in small states?
Another challenge that small states may face in education is attracting and retaining qualified teachers. In some cases, smaller states may not be able to offer competitive salaries or benefits packages, which can make it difficult to recruit and retain talented educators. Additionally, small states may have limited opportunities for professional development and career advancement, which can make it less attractive for teachers to stay in their jobs long term. Addressing these challenges may require innovative solutions, such as offering flexible work arrangements or investing in technology to support remote teaching and learning.
Okay, thank you for that, Annie. And so now what do you think could be the solutions for education in small states? In your opinion, what could be the solutions?
There are several potential solutions that could help address the challenges facing education in small states. One approach could be to invest in technology and infrastructure to support remote learning and teaching. This could help to overcome some of the geographic and cultural barriers that small states may face in delivering education. Another solution could be to form partnerships and collaborations with other states or countries to share resources and expertise. This could help to provide small states with access to a wider pool of qualified teachers, as well as innovative teaching methods and technologies. Finally, investing in education and providing students with high-quality learning experiences could help to attract and retain talented educators, which could help to ensure that students receive a quality education. What do you think?
I agree with you, and thank you for your intervention. Now I have to continue with my colleagues here in Cagliari. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you again in the future. And thank you for introducing my talk today. Thank you. Bye now.
You're welcome. It was great talking to you. Have a great time with your colleagues in Cagliari, and I hope to talk to you again soon. Bye for now.
Ok, this is the latest, questa è l'ultima soluzione parlante del ChatGPT che usiamo nell'istruzione, nell'education. I just will add to what she said and present some thoughts. Maybe at some stage we can have the presentation when it's available. Take your time. Okay, so I think, credo che questo convegno non era completo che non trattiamo il tema dell'educazione, dell'istruzione pubblica. So I think this is a very important theme, and I thank you for this opportunity. And with all due respect to all the other very important themes, the sports, amazing achievements, and all the other sectors. But of course, it all boils down to education, and I'm sure even in sports, you actually train and have new athletes, you know, the formation, I think, is very important. So the issue, thank you. Thank you so much. The issue is, okay, so islands have been receiving for a long time attention even from UNESCO. Since 1993, I found this publication, Fundamentals of Educational Planning, which UNESCO had published, and there was already particular attention to the issue of la pubblica istruzione, education, by UNESCO in this book. This interest undoubtedly reflects their emergence at the forefront of the international scene and their undeniable strategic importance. So already UNESCO, 1993, was giving importance to islands, especially the aspect of education. Okay, so the first question is, che significa la qualità in educazione, nella pubblica istruzione? What does it mean that to have quality? Because it's important not just to have education, not to have public instruction, but what is quality? And of course, as you know, the question is, can this be measured? Can this be measured? One way, one dimension of measuring quality is in the areas of mathematics, science, language qualities, and so on. The results, when comparing the results of the islands with bigger countries, sometimes they may be disheartening, okay, maybe discouraging. For example, if we look at the results from when comparing countries with similar GDP to the islands, for example, the OECD, as you know, has PISA. This every 3 years, we have this assessment of 15-year-olds, studenti di 15 anni, okay, from over 100 countries, di più di 100 paesi nel mondo, and there is a comparison. This is for reading, mathematics, and science. Reading, mathematics, and science. And then we have the TIMSS, that is specific measure of achievement of 9, 10-year-olds, 13, 4-year-olds in mathematics and science. Again, there, the results perhaps from the assessments may not be so encouraging for small states like the islands. On the other hand, maybe we qualify and describe quality in education, maybe we think of an education, pubblica istruzione, that caters for the needs and the characteristics of individual students. It keeps them engaged, okay, in learning rather than pushing them out. Because as we shall see, one of the challenges of education in small states like islands is to retain students, to retain them up to tertiary education, okay? We have the phenomenon of early school leaving in small states especially. And so what are the challenges that I would see from a number of islands? The issue of qualified teachers, how much you can attract to your schools qualified teachers. The student-teacher ratio, how many students you have in each class, okay? So this is not such a big number that the teacher cannot pay attention to individual students. Educationally sound resources, okay? Resources which are effective, even digital resources. And the appropriate, as we shall see, appropriate language of instruction, what we call the languages of schooling. In Malta, for example, we have both Maltese, our mother tongue, and English. Even the main language is Maltese, but constitutionally, officially, all documents by government, for example, and a lot of the communication is relayed in both Maltese and English, in both languages. Okay, so this issue of student disengagement, okay, high dropout rates. Why? The question is, why are schools not perhaps responding adequately to student interests? And maybe a lot of people think that staying on in education delays your opportunity of starting to make money. Or when at least I talk to young people in Malta and in other countries, I don't know what your experience may be, but they feel they want to get out of education sometimes, unless of course they have parents who may perhaps serve as a role model for them and explain to them. but the feeling is that they want to get out of education as soon as possible to start making money. Yes, having done an overview of what are the challenges at different levels in the islands, for example, I will present some case studies. Kindergartens, for example, we now know that early childhood education, la scuola materna, okay, is very important, it's very fundamental. We know that from the first 3 years, there are studies now which show that the route that a child takes from the first 3 years directs them to success in education or not, from the first 3 years, from the attention, the talking to them, okay, the reading of books, the literacy education, that already puts them in the direction of whether they succeed or not later on in life. So there are case studies from a number of countries where classrooms at kindergarten are not equipped well for children up to 5 years, and especially the state provision when compared to the private provision where you have to pay, where the parents can afford to pay private education, then that is lacking, okay? The early childhood education there is lacking, the state provision compared to the private provision. And again, we see the teachers, I don't know what this is, but this is definitely the case in Malta and a number of other countries, especially smaller states. Teachers are not trained adequately, or if they are trained adequately, they are graduates, but they feel they have low salaries, that they are not recognized. This is a phenomenon I found also in the United States. When I was visiting schools, most of the teachers finish school and go to do another job, okay? And somehow this phenomenon is even more common in small states, that usually teachers actually do other jobs or else provide private tuition, okay, private classes to supplement their income. Yes, sometimes this overemphasis on examinations, okay? Examinations, especially written examination. And this industry of what is called the shadow education system, there's many children to get a head start, many parents to give their children a head start, send them for extra tuition, okay? That is like the day tuition. The government provision is not enough, even in state schools, and they are sent for additional classes, even 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old children, so young, they are sent to additional tuition, additional provision. One issue again, that when interviewing students from small states like islands, there seems to be this, what is called this academic drift, this mismatch between what the students feel they need or what the industry feels that is necessary in terms of skills and what the university is willing to provide, okay? And you have this dichotomy, of course, between medical engineering and science faculties, which are perhaps considered more the royal road to higher incomes, and the lower status of humanities, okay? A colleague here shared some very beautiful poetry, okay? But what is the perception of literature and poetry and the humanities compared to this good, very appropriate emphasis on STEM, on science, technology, and mathematics, but not at the cost of the humanities, which is very important. And we realized in COVID, during the COVID time, how important this was, this resting the soul, this appreciation of literature, this appreciation of the nature and expressing oneself. Because many of us found ourselves with ourselves and we had to do something with ourselves, okay? The technology was good because it could relay, but the technology, we had to use that to relay movies, artistic expression, okay, literature. So this is very important. So in small states, the demand for marketable skills sometimes outweighs what is available. So oftentimes there is the intervention of private universities, which and their quality may be not as good, okay? And many young people feel maybe that they have to go to other countries. So some of the challenges are absence of economies of scale, the remoteness from the mainland of islands and the insularity, this role multiplicity that we wear, oftentimes people like us from the islands wear many different hats, you know, being involved in different things, the close-knit communities, which is positive to some extent, but then it makes for some isolation, the vulnerability. Sometimes our colleague was saying the lack of meritocracy, the patronage, the favoritism, and the relative lack of expertise, funding, and resources. I feel all these specific to the attention that is being brought by this convenio, by this forum to small island state, need reflection, and we need to prepare responses. I think we should have an outcome after all these fantastic discussions and presentations, but have a number of concrete outcomes that we can propose to the authorities, both the local authorities, the national authorities, and to the European authorities as outcomes from this forum, as each of these may have an impact on the education system of the islands and require appropriate reflection and responses. Yes, there I listed the issue of textbooks, the organization of exams. For many years in Malta, our students were sitting for exams delivered by the United Kingdom, for Oxford exams, London University exams, the professional training of teachers, the organization of post-secondary. This involves a lot of funds. So sometimes as islands, we tend to rely on foreign curricula and textbooks, okay? For a number of years in Malta, I remember we were studying the geography of the British Isles. We were mentioning the colonial period in Malta, the geography, not the geography of Malta or the Maltese Islands, but the geography of the British Isles, so far away, so different from us, you know, even in terms of geography and climate. So we send the students abroad for training. So this makes for a cultural dependence and vulnerability, okay? The vulnerability and dependence on the mainland. So those are some of the challenges that I referred to. This wearing of different hats, okay, that you have to be an expert in many things. This brain drain, okay, that our young people from the islands go to study in the mainland or in other countries. Some of them or most of them don't come back, or if they come back, then they leave again. This lack of resilience, a colleague, economics professor, colleague Brigulio in Malta, suggested this index of economic vulnerability, this lack of resilience, okay, which can impact if there is just a small change in foreign investment, for example, it can really affect the economy because our economies are relatively small, so can they be affected by one event. Those, as I said, I took some case studies. I will not go into depth because, of course, most of you here and online know more about this, the challenges for education in Sardinia, Corsica, Cyprus, Iceland, for example, although it's quite advanced, but it was interesting to see because we think of the Nordic countries like Finland and other Nordic countries to have model education systems, but they have their own challenges. Like Iceland, there is lack of diversity, a relatively homogeneous population, so that the students don't feel challenged because of a lack also of qualified teachers. And the students in the rural parts of the country feel they are shortchanged. Again, in Malta, we have experienced significant reforms in terms of the quality of education. Still, however, we have 19% of students who do not continue to tertiary education, and these are mainly from disadvantaged backgrounds. And this issue of diversity, which was lacking, but now it really has overtaken us. In fact, I will show just some statistics very soon in terms of the distribution of the student population in Malta. You go back like this. I go back one. The first one. Okay. 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 So, yes, I had one slide, which I think is missing there, which shows that now in Malta, we have like 74% are Maltese children, but 17% of the children in our schools are from outside the EU, and about 3-4% are from the EU. So that means like 1 every 5 of school children in Malta are actually from outside the European Union, extra-communitary. Yes, so my conclusion will be, however, a positive one. My conclusion will be a positive one, that despite these challenges for education in our educational systems, we have to remember from where we started, okay? What was the starting point? I realized from studying the situation in the islands of Europe that illiteracy in all of these states was cut down drastically by 1980. We used to have in the 60s, 70s, a lot of illiteracy in the islands of Europe, but by 1980, this was cut down considerably, okay? And the issue of gender parity, the equality between the sexes, that now is a big advancement even in the islands of Europe, okay, in our schools. Secondly, despite these challenges, we have to see what has been achieved, okay? So maybe not to rely too much on the international assessment, PISA, the PEARLs, the TIMSS, but to think also that there is diversity. We can't put like the PISA and the PEARLs, the OECD, EU sometimes statistic they put everybody in a league of tables, league table, and put everybody in the same basket. We have to appreciate the diversity from where each country, each island of Europe started and what has been achieved. Even there are differences between different parts of the country, okay? Students sometimes in coastal cities, because we are talking about Islas del Mar, get a different quality service from those registered in the urban areas or in the interior of the country. So even within the countries, there are differences in terms of quality education, let alone from one country to the other. Yes, so the policy needs to increasingly be, as it is now in most islands of Europe, that there is sharing of resources, high quality resources that are equally and fairly shared across all regions, with priority given, of course, to poorer and more vulnerable sectors. Yes, this was the statistics about Malta that I was referring to earlier on. Okay, so again, this to conclude that the general statistics need to be broken down and we need to know exactly what are the differences. I have had the honor of visiting some state schools in a number of islands of Europe, which are very high quality, even when compared to the private institutions, which have more funds, have more resources. And sometimes these successes of schools of different regions are not captured in the global European PISA, OECD, TIMSS, PEARLs statistics, because these require expensive qualitative research, but we have to give this due attention, the quality of education per se for each student in our schools in the islands of Europe. So my final point is there is a lot of hope, c'è tanta speranza, when considering the achievements that have been achieved over the years by the islands of Europe with limited resources and with localized initiatives, even in education. Thank you very much.
Grazie, grazie mille, Chairs. Grazie, brillante presentazione. Veramente un modello importante comunque da applicare la istruzione, no? La qualità dell'istruzione nelle scuole, condividere questi modelli con le isole dell'Europa. Grazie, veramente brillante. Complimenti, complimenti.